Well, losing my mom. My brothers and sisters and I losing our mom. It was after the storm, a couple of days. I remember post-storm stress, and I used to chuckle and laugh at it. Oh, it's real. It's very real. And her heart couldn't take it. She had lived through Camille. She had done a lot of volunteer work in Camille. There's an old family story about how she got into it with the Red Cross after she opened up an aid station. 3 days after she opened up the aid station, the Red Cross told her she had to shut it down because she wasn't registered. Sounds familiar? Same stuff happened after Katrina. Well, in Camille, she told them to get the hell away from her. She was a registered nurse. And so the last I heard from her was, I talked to her. She was in a hotel in Alabama, and she was lamenting that the aftermath of Camille was handled much better than the aftermath of Katrina 40 years later. And that was the last time I spoke to her. She died of a heart attack the next day. That pales everything for me. Other people, and have similar experiences. I mean, I'm not special in that regard, but that's been the biggest negative. Other things, the negatives that have come out, the corruption and different things we've seen where lack of leadership, those were there before. They just got exposed. They couldn't hide anymore. So, the negatives after Katrina were there before Katrina. We just saw them more. So some of the positive outcomes, I mean, for me, I've got two daughters who are 7 and 12. For me, the biggest outcomes, or most positive outcomes, are looking at the education system here in New Orleans. It's not perfect, but it's better. It's improved. There's no question. More kids are getting opportunities to go to good schools. All kids aren't getting opportunities to go to good schools. There's a big difference. We've got to keep fighting to make that better. I feel like we lost a generation after Katrina of kids for several years that really didn't get educated. And I think a lot of the crime that we're seeing now is just due to those kids who were sort of lost for a few years. So, this is a long-term investment in our education, and that's been one of the brightest things. The other thing is that surge of activism, I wish we could maintain it. I wish we could have had the fervor that we had at those years after the storm, but that's matured. And I wish we could find a way to take that positive activism and just get more and more people involved and maintain that energy over a long period of time. But that activism's still with us. They're not activists anymore. They're on the city council. They're journalists. They're activists in their neighborhoods. They work with kids. They do everything. They may not look, but that all grew out of Katrina. That all grew out of the aftermath. And so, some of these things that I'm talking about have been mentioned to me, I've noticed them, but it's taken friends who were here a while back and they come back and we sit down and we've talked about it. And they pointed out to me, because when you see those incremental changes every day, you really don't recognize them. But then you start thinking about it and you realize how much good did come out of that.